People want to trust you. So you need to have like some kind of social proof or things that make them feel safe and secure. So are you going to be hard to reach, for example? Or do you have a phone number on your website that they can just pick up and call, whether they want to call you or not, just knowing that that number's there and they can do it? And that there's other people that had similar experiences and had a positive outcome with you.
Is your website God's gift to the legal world? Perfect in every way? I'm going to bet there's at least a little room for improvement, if not a lot. You could be leaving a lot of deals on the table and passing on a ton of revenue by not optimizing your site for conversions. Our guest this week gives us some simple changes and other things to consider when designing or even redesigning our websites. Quinn Zeda is the founder of Conversion Crimes, a service that does usability testing to help you see and evaluate your website from the client's perspective, helping you improve that communication, clarity, and ultimately conversions. We'll discuss the finer points of converting prospective clients into paying ones and the specific challenges attorneys face, such as why clients bounce from your site. We'll discuss the specific challenges attorneys face, including why clients bounce from your site, why putting too much info on your site is a mistake, how clients can connect with you better through video, and even how to adjust the length of your forms to work as better lead qualification. Make sure to stick around to the end for tons of valuable tips. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hey, Quinn, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Quinn, we have been friends for many years, and you recently started a new business that goes in and basically tests websites. It is super neat. I am itching to share, basically you have your team of flying monkeys that comes and they descend on people's websites and tell them exactly how broken and hard to use they are. But I think I've probably skimmed over way too much. So rather than me blabbering on anymore, why don't you explain exactly what Conversion Crimes is?
Yeah, so basically, Conversion Crimes helps you understand how people see your website and understand it for the first time. Like, you built your website, you wrote the copy, whatever, you know where things are, where to click, what it means, but somebody that's never seen it before doesn't know. So it gives you really unfiltered feedback of what people understand or think, or how they try to figure stuff out, where they get frustrated or confused, so that you can understand your customer more, your leads more, and better convert them and better serve your customers.
Excellent. So, it's one of the first things that came to mind, and I think this is included in how Conversion Crimes is doing things. You're picking certain endpoints. It's not just, hey, everybody, start going to this website and tell us what you think. How does that get structured?
So basically, it's The core of our product is usability testing, but the end result is increasing conversions and improving user experience. And so when you think about that, like when somebody goes to your website, what do? Okay, I need a lawyer. I had a car wreck or whatever. I had an injury. I need this thing. They come to your website. They want to find out certain information and so forth. So what you do is you write a test. You think about those steps that somebody goes through, and so you say, okay, what do you think this website is about? Do you understand who's it for? What can you do here? Okay, so you give them a scenario. Okay, you just had a car accident and you were in the hospital and you need a lawyer to help you out, like to do whatever. What questions do you have? Where would you find information? How would you figure out if this is the right lawyer for you? And you sit there and you understand they speak their thoughts out loud as they're going through your site to find this information. And then you're like, okay, you decide you want to hire this person. Where would you go to do that? What first step would you take? And so you just kind of give them these tasks that are kind of instructions that align with the experience that you know that someone goes to become a customer. And that's how you understand their experience. So there's a little bit of setup, but it's really easy. Like once you know how to set it up, it's quite easy.
Right. And it sounds like the first thing that anybody's going to have to do is know, well, what is the first thing they need to do? You can't just have it be, well, pay money and we'll dump some law on you. It's what's the minor step on the way in? And is there any consistent, is there a right answer for what that should look like, of what the first step is in terms of, is it schedule a phone call, send us your email, fill out this questionnaire?
Yeah, it really depends on the business, the website, what result you're looking for. You can literally test anything on the site. So, for example, if you're having people send in they're filling out a form and you're getting a lot of low quality leads, then you could say, okay, like, why am I getting low quality leads? And you can write a test to figure that out. And actually, like, one of the things that our service provides is a lot of people don't know how to write a test, even though it's quite pretty straightforward and simple once you know how to do it, is that our team can actually do that for you. So you just tell us your problem and we'll figure it out.
So, yeah, but you've been talking about like improving conversions and user experience. What have been some of the surprises of, for you seeing what people are getting hung up on? Like what sort of snags are common that people just don't see in their own website?
Yeah, so the first thing is really that people don't understand what your website is about when they first land on it. They're so confused. So they don't really understand what it is, who it's for, and they have to sit there. Sometimes they're there for like 3 or 4 minutes, like trying to figure it out. And a normal person that's not getting paid to test is not going to sit there for 4 minutes and try to figure out what your website is. They're just going to leave and go to your competitor.
Right. And again, it all comes down to how can we make it easy for them to see not only themselves as potential clients, but our website as the vector for the kind of first step for us helping them. So ultimately, we're getting to how can we make it easy? And for the lawyers listening, not everybody wants to read about how wonderful you are, because how wonderful you are doesn't actually help them solve whatever problem they've got. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when somebody's like, they have a problem and they go to your website and you're like, oh, I've done this, I've been to this school, I've done like la 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 la, they don't care. They have a problem.
Right.
I was in a car wreck. I need a lawyer. That's just the first thing that came up to me. Or somebody stole my copyright or used it, and I need a lawyer to help me like figure out how to take this down, or whatever their problem is, right? They need to know that you have a solution for them. They don't care where you went to school. They don't care all these lawyery terms that they don't even know what they mean.
So once we've started by filtering out terminology,
Mm-hmm.
and probably phrasing things so that a high school senior can read and understand what we do, what are we doing to structure those web pages?
So the big mistake that a lot of people make is they have so many things they want their potential customers to know about them, right? And of course, like There's so many things that they do need to know. But what is the most important thing that they need to know? What's the second most important thing that they need to know? And you want to make sure those are loud and clear, simplified, and you reduce the amount of information that you're throwing at them at once. And even though it's important for them to maybe know all of those things, like let's say there's like 5 or 6 really important things they need to know, we'll get them in on 1 and 2 first. And then you can like lead them to click a button that then will progressively reveal more information to them. So you're like kind of feeding them little bites, you know, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? So if you just throw this whole elephant at them with like all of the stuff, they're just going to feel overwhelmed, and then they're just going to leave, right? Because they're just going to feel overwhelmed with that. Oh, this is going to be an overwhelming experience with this lawyer. I'm getting overwhelmed with their website. And the thing is, there's this thing called the halo effect, and it's a cognitive bias that people have. So they believe if this one thing is good, then this other thing is going to be good too. So if they have a good experience on your website, they're able to easily find the information, answer their questions. They're going to assume that once they talk to you, they're going to have that same kind of good experience. Now, the reverse is also true. If they go to your website, it's cluttered, it's full of information, they're confused, they're frustrated, they can't find the information, they're going to assume you're a bad lawyer and you're not going to be able to help them.
That their experience with you is going to be clustered, nothing but walls of text coming at them, explaining everything. So, and again, it's going to come back to what you just said, picking out the 1 or 2 important things. And I think maybe there's a line to be drawn. The 1 or 2 important things, it's not going to be the actions to take necessarily, but the 1 or 2 important things are going to be, can this person help me? And what do I need to do next? Is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah. How can this person help me? It's communication. Are you communicating clearly, effectively, efficiently? And what do I need to do next? How do I do that? Am I able to easily find how to take the next step with this person? And probably a third one that I would add is trust. People want to trust you. So you need to have like some kind of social proof or things that make them feel safe and secure. So are you going to be hard to reach, for example? Or do you have a phone number on your website that they can just pick up and call, whether they want to call you or not, just knowing that that number's there and they can do it? And that there's other people that had similar experiences and had a positive outcome with you. So, right. Yeah.
No, because if this is the first chance they've gotten to see us, we've got to make it easier for them to see and hear us. Things like this would, it sounds like, include video on your website, probably of you talking, especially if they're going to be talking with you. If they're going to be talking with somebody else, have those people so that they can figure out what those interactions will look like.
Yeah, video does great because it really helps build trust. They get to see you. They get to understand what it's like to interact with you, your personality, if they feel a connection. That's actually why YouTubers and stuff actually have different experiences than like celebrities, like in a movie. Really? Because YouTubers, they're so personal in their videos when they're doing stuff that their fans feel like they know them. Like they're their friend, right? And they have this like stronger emotional bond, whereas you don't really have that with like Brad Pitt or something, where he's like in a movie, you see him, he's playing a character, whereas like on YouTube, these people are people and you feel like in a connection. So if you're able to get a video on the site where you can start to make connections with people, then they're going to make a connection with you before they even kind of get to you in person. And so you're building trust with them before you even have that interaction. Right?
It's really interesting because, and just to say it another way, Brad Pitt is playing a character. He's not talking to you. He's talking to the other characters on screen. But when I go and watch whoever it is on YouTube, they're literally only talking to me, their direct audience. They're explaining things to, not John in particular, but whoever the audience is. But, they're spiking the camera in ways that Brad Pitt never would.
Exactly. And they're speaking directly to you, right? And you feel that connection in other ways. That's why like Casey Neistat like blew up on YouTube. He does really good with like storytelling and connecting with his audience. And he's just like, even when he goes to like, VidCon or whatever, all these people feel like they know him, like they're his friend.
Right. It's the connections being built in a one-way direction. And we can do that just by throwing video of us talking up on YouTube and then linking that into the website. it's something we've been working on anyway. But that's interesting to hear that it should be, it should work that way. And,
Yeah.
The contrast is you can have the wall of text.
Yeah,
But
or you
that's
could
gonna
just sit there and explain the same thing and talk to someone, and they're going to get that information in a way that's just, it builds a connection, it builds trust, it builds rapport.
Right. And so effectively, you can still have that, you can still convey the wall of text without having the digital but physical space taken up with that wall of text. Because one of the things that I see a lot is you go to landing pages and they're a mile long and it's going over the same stuff. And maybe it's because I've read enough about marketing and advertising at this point that I know, all right, he's just addressing, like, I'm done. Like, my objections have been addressed already. Show me the price or show me what to do next. But so many of them, I guess they're just keyword stuffing still, and they want to have that skyscraper article that tracks for whatever I searched for, that for whatever reason, they're just still hammering things to make sure that I get to the end of the page when I just want the end of the page.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also ways to like structure that information so you can still have that stuff in text, but maybe it's behind another page. Like they have to click a link to go to it and then find that information. Like maybe it's down in FAQs, what have you. Maybe you put stuff on the about page. Maybe there's like a how it works page. Maybe there's like, here's our use case. Use cases is not the right word for lawyers, but types of cases that we take on kind of thing, right? So people can see that and then you can go into more information there. So really it's about progressively revealing it, giving people the information they need at what point in the journey they are in. And video, you can use that to connect with them and you can also give them more information without overwhelming them. And they can choose to watch that video or not, right? Or they can choose to like click on something and go read that information.
Right. And I like the idea of remembering what stage they're in, because if they're just starting to figure out who you are, once my clients have hired me, they're not going back to the website, but they need deeper, more specific information at that point. The folks who are going to my website don't know who I am and are probably just evaluating me to see if I'm a good fit. So we don't need to overwhelm them with all of that. We need to just make it like, if you fit in these buckets, we can help you. And if you don't, we can send you somewhere else.
Exactly. I'm a tax lawyer. I help expats do their tax for whatever. Here's the ways that I can help you, right? Right off the bat. Is this what I'm looking for? Yes or no? Simple question. And if it's yes, then they're going to continue to look for more information or continue to start to figure, can I trust this person? All those sort of things.
That is some good stuff. So before we started talking, you had mentioned that Google may be making some updates soon. And I think you're going to explain that way better than I am. Or about even what we think it is.
Yeah, so last summer, Google made an announcement that in 2021, they're going to start using page experience as a signal for their search rankings. So what that means is that in order to maintain rankings on Google, you need to make sure that people are having a good experience on your website. Now, there's certain things they can and cannot measure, but if they come to your website and they leave immediately, then they're like, oh, we sent you a lead and you didn't answer their questions. They bounced, right? They bounced right out. Or they were on your website and they were like rage clicking things, right? So obviously, like, it's not a good experience because you made something that looks like a button that's not a button. Like different types of nuance and kind of things like this, they can start to use these signals to tell whether if somebody has a good or bad experience. And they're going to start to use that in their algorithm. And they've mentioned that they're going to continue to update it year over year as they get more sophisticated. And I believe they're going to push it out in April or May of 2021. I can't remember the exact month, but it's coming in 2021 that they're going to start adding this.
Interesting. So do you think it's that they're already or they've been collecting that data because we put whatever code that they want us in or having in our websites for Google Analytics anyway, that's already tracking clicks and where the mouse is going no matter what people are doing right now. And it's probably doing that on mobile as well. So they're collecting data now.
Yeah, they're collecting data. They're trying to understand people's experience because people's experience is like softer, right? You can't tell like if I'm happy or sad or like this from like what I'm doing on a website. But there are certain indicators that they can track, and they're going to start to correlate those more and more and build up that algorithm over time. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think it'll be pretty basic at first, but yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that's just wild. I mean, I think I heard about Hotjar a few years ago where they'll just send you heat maps of where people's mouse is on your website, and now, no surprise, Google has found new information, and they're going to, weaponize it against and for us.
Well, the thing is, their whole business is about helping people find the information that they want to find. So if your website is not helping people find the information that they want to find, then you're going to go down in rankings, and they're going to move people up that are helping people do that.
It's
So
that
it's
simple.
about like, yeah, like really.
So, again, how can we make it easy for everybody to get what they want from your website? Get them there, no rage clicking. And I mean, it gets to, you mentioned the things that look like buttons that aren't, which I'm sure is not uncommon. But also, one of the things you mentioned to me a while ago was having the right set of colors. And it's not necessarily, use yellow or red or blue as your color, but having, how you should structure that in, a color for big action, a second color that is different for, I think you said secondary action, but go ahead and correct me since I just word saladed a lot of website design.
Yeah, so basically a mistake a lot of websites make is okay, you have a color palette, you have your brand, right? And you have a color that you're using for your buttons that you want people to click on. But you use this color for your logo, you use it for your headlines, you use it for like whatever else, like a bunch of stuff because it's part of your brand. But the thing is, when you come to the color of your CTAs and the buttons that you want people to click, you want to make sure what I call is an action color. So you take, let's say you have 5 colors in your brand, take out the color that's the boldest, the biggest, the brightest, the one that stands out the most, and you designate that as your action color, right? And what that does is you never use that. Well, I don't want to say never, but for the most part, you don't use that color anywhere else on your website or in your branding or anything like that. You can use like hints and stuff to kind of like tie it all together. But ideally, you only want to use that color when you want people to take an action, like clicking on a button, clicking on a link or whatever. And what you're doing is you're training people that when they see that color in your website, they should click it. That's something they can click. That's a place they can go. It's going to do something. And at the same time, a lot of times on pages, there's multiple things that you want people to do. So you want to have the primary action color and then the secondary action color, which is what you're trying to say. So the secondary action color doesn't necessarily need to be another color. It could just be that the primary CTA is solid color. And then the secondary one is just an outline, right? So it's either filled in or not filled in, or you can use a different color, but you want to differentiate them in some way, whether that's in the style of how it's used or a different color altogether. And what that does is just makes the action stand out. So when people look at the page, they're like, oh, this is what you want me to do. And it's really obvious that that's where I need to go, right? And that's like, send the contact form, give me your email address, call me, like whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, and so once we've got these primary colors, we start our call to action colors, we start getting more and more leads. What can we do if we start getting overwhelmed with too many leads?
So when you have simple forms that just like, oh, give me your name and email address, a lot of people are willing to fill out that form. It takes like 5 seconds to do that, especially if they have autofill. But let's say you're getting like a lot of leads to your website and now it's overwhelming your sales team or your admin or whatever. What you want to do is you want to start to qualify those leads a little bit better. And what you do is you make your form a little bit more complex. So now you're asking for their name, you're you're asking for their email, you're asking maybe for a phone number, you're asking like, what's your budget? What kind of service are you looking for? Like what have you, whatever like your business information that would help you qualify those leads better, you add that to the form. And the longer you make the form, the less people are going to fill it out. But the people that are going to fill it out are people that care. They actually like really want the service. They want more information and they're willing to dedicate the time and give you the information in order to do that. So then instead of overwhelming, let's say your team with 1,000 like emails and names, you're giving them, let's say 50 high quality leads that then they can go through and sort through and they're more likely to purchase and do business with you.
Right. I mean, remember it was probably 2 or so years ago, I actually took the email address off my website because that was way too easy. And we were getting, among other things, we're just getting hammered with spam bots that said, oh, here's an email address. We're going to start sending you all of this stuff. People do want to start the process. And so that's why we basically pulled all of that off. We've got a chatbot, but that's smarter than the spam robots right now. And we also have links to Calendly, which is still smarter than the spam robots. Though I'm sure at a certain point they will overwhelm that and start learning how to read that. But we've got extra questions in there. So it's not just enter your phone number and your email. You've got to pick a time. And hopefully that's keeping out the truly bad links from people who are trying to get in and just asking click a few things, put in your contact information.
Yeah. And like, for example, if you have a website that you're not getting enough leads, you can make it simpler. Like, here, do this thing. You can book on my calendar and they can, with Calendly, you can just book a time. And then there's a point where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting all of these calls now. Now I gotta, start to qualify them a little bit more. Then you start to, implement a little bit of friction in there. Like, okay, you have to fill out this form and then I'm going to email you and then you're going to get a link to my Calendly, right? So it just kind of depends where your business is, like what kind of experience you need to give them, what kind of friction you need to put there in order to get the result that you want, but also at the same time helping your customers so they have a good experience as well.
Quinn, thanks so much for being with us. Where can people find you?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So people can find me at conversioncrimes.com, or if they have any questions, they can feel free to email me at quinn@conversioncrimes.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcouncil.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcouncil.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.